Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's Paid Family Leave webinar from Military Leave. I'm Adam Rossi from the Communication and Outreach Unit here at the Workers' Compensation Board. Today we will provide an overview of the state's landmark paid family leave benefit, specifically as it pertains to military leave. We will review new and improved benefits for 2022, eligibility, how to apply, a walkthrough of the required forms and documentation, some important information regarding COVID-19, as well as some frequently asked questions. We do ask that you please keep your phone lines muted, as we will be using the chat feature to receive your questions. You can enter your questions throughout the presentation in the chat box located on the right side of your screen. Just use the drop-down to send your questions to the host or presenter. Joining me today to answer your questions is Quinn Rapp-Ellis from our Office of General Counsel. Quinn will answer as many of your questions as she can, but if you have questions that we don't get to today, or if you think of something after the session ends, we will be providing you with resources at the end of the presentation. So with that, as I said, we will now start our webinar on paid family leave with a specific focus for military-related leave. Paid family leave is now fully phased in, with benefits now at maximum levels. Since its implementation in 2018, paid family leave benefits have been significantly enhanced to further improve the lives of working New Yorkers and their families, including providing more time off, more uses of paid family leave, and financial security. In today's presentation, we'll start by discussing why we need paid family leave, and then cover some of the basics you need to know, including the 3 original uses of paid family leave, an overview of the benefits, how much it costs, who's eligible, and steps you need to take to request paid family leave for military service. We'll review some of the frequently asked questions about this type of leave, discuss information regarding paid family leave and COVID-19, point you to some helpful resources, and then leave time at the end for your questions. You can submit your questions throughout the presentation anytime, again, just using the chat function, but we will hold all questions until the end of the presentation. So let's get started. Why do we need paid family leave? For too long, employees have struggled to maintain their jobs when they need to care for a loved one during a specific time of need, whether that's welcoming a new baby, caring for a family member with a serious health condition, or dealing with family pressures when a loved one is deployed abroad on active military service. More recently, many employees have been challenged by having to quarantine due to COVID-19 or care for a minor dependent child who is subject to a mandatory quarantine or order of isolation. Employees in these situations face the stress of losing income when they need to take time off to help their family, and also fear their job may be gone when the family situation is over. In response to these needs, New York took action. In April 2016, New York's paid family leave, the nation's strongest and most comprehensive paid family leave policy, was signed into law. Paid family leave is employee-funded insurance that helps employees be there for their family when they're most needed. Because of paid family leave, workers across New York no longer have to choose between caring for their loved ones in their jobs, as we now have employee-paid insurance to help in these critical times. Paid family leave provides job-protected, paid time off, so you can bond with a newly born, adopted, or fostered child, care for a family member with a serious health condition, or assist loved ones when a spouse, domestic partner, child, or parent is called to active military service abroad. Paid family leave also now provides time off and job protection so you can care for yourself or a minor dependent child when under a mandatory order of quarantine or isolation due to COVID-19. The order must be issued by the state of New York, the Department of Health, local board of health, or any government entity duly authorized to issue such order due to COVID-19. We'll go into more details on the uses later in this presentation, as they are a bit different from the others. In addition to paid time off, New York's paid family leave also has strong employee protections. You are guaranteed to return to the same or comparable job after taking paid family leave. A comparable job is defined as a position with comparable employment benefits, pay, and other terms and conditions of employment. You're also guaranteed continuation of health insurance while out on paid family leave, on the same terms as if you would continue to work. So if you contribute to the cost of your health insurance, you must continue paying your portion of the premium while you're on leave. Lastly, you're also guaranteed protection from discrimination and retaliation. Requesting or taking paid family leave cannot be held against you. So today, we're going to focus on paid family leave related to military deployments. Paid family leave benefits are available when you have a family member on active service abroad or who has been notified of an impending call or order of active service abroad and family assistance is needed. Eligibility for paid family leave for an active service deployment is the same as the military provisions of the Federal Family Medical Leave Act, or FMLA. They cover your spouse, child, domestic partner, or parent. There are a number of instances where paid family leave will help, shown here on your screen. Military deployment can be a stressful time for service members and their family as they face the realities of what this means for them. Military leave allows employees to be present and provide support to their family during this time of need without having to worry about losing their job or financial security. Working military spouses already have a difficult time maintaining long-term employment due to moves, deployment, and childcare. Having paid family leave eases financial strains, allowing military spouses to focus their time on both work and family, while service members can stay focused on their mission and worry less about how to pay bills. And when service members return from deployment for rest and recuperation, paid family leave gives families valuable time to reconnect. Now let's take a look at the specific benefits available to you under paid family leave. As mentioned earlier, paid family leave is now fully phased in with benefits at maximum levels. Paid family leave provides time off and wage benefits, which were gradually phased in over a 4-year period that started in 2018. At that time, paid family leave provided 8 weeks off at 50% pay up to a cap. Paid family leave is now fully phased in, with eligible employees able to take up to 12 weeks of paid family leave at 67% of their average weekly wage, capped at 67% of the New York State average weekly wage. An employee's average weekly wage is based on their last 8 weeks of pay prior to taking paid family leave. For 2022, the New York State average weekly wage is $1,594.97. It is important to note that employees can take this paid time off all at once or intermittently, but it must always be in full day increments. To estimate your wage benefit, you can use the 2022 calculator on the Paid Family Leave website. Paid family leave is fully funded through employee contributions. Each year, the Department of Financial Services sets the employee contribution rate to match the cost of the coverage. In 2022, the payroll contribution is 0.511% of your gross wages each pay period. The maximum annual contribution is $423.71. If you earn less than the statewide average weekly wage, you will contribute less than the annual cap, consistent with your actual wages. To estimate your deduction, use the payroll deduction calculator on the Paid Family Leave website. So to summarize the updates for 2022, the maximum weekly benefit has increased from $971.61 to $1,068.38. Also, as of January 1st, 2022, employers may continue deducting at the rate of 0.511% of an employee's gross wages each pay period, but capped at an annual maximum of $423.71. In 2021, the annual maximum cap was $385.84. So now that we've covered the types of leave, the benefits, and the costs, let's discuss who's covered and eligible for paid family leave. Most employees who work for private employers in New York State are covered under paid family leave. If you work for a public employer, your employer may opt into the program. If you're a public employee represented by a union, you may be covered if paid family leave is collectively bargained. For covered employees, your eligibility for taking paid family leave depends on meeting specific requirements for the amount of time you have worked for your employer. Full-time employees who regularly work 20 or more hours per week are eligible for paid family leave after 26 consecutive weeks of employment with the same employer. Part-time employees who work a regular schedule of fewer than 20 hours per week are eligible after working 175 days, which do not need to be consecutive. Citizenship and/or immigration status is not a factor in determining employee eligibility. Governor Hochul recently signed an amendment to the workers' compensation law, which expands coverage for domestic workers. Previously, domestic workers were only required to be covered if they worked at least 40 hours per week for their employer. As of January 1st, 2022, domestic workers who are hired directly by a private homeowner and who work 20 or more hours a week for the private homeowner are required to be covered for paid family leave. These workers are eligible once they have been in employment with that employer for 26 consecutive weeks. Paid family leave coverage is not optional for eligible employees. You can waive coverage if you regularly work 20 or more hours per week, but won't be in employment for 26 consecutive weeks. Or if you regularly work fewer than 20 hours per week and won't work 175 days in a 52-week period. Seasonal workers are a good example of this, as they may work full-time, but only for 3 months out of the year. So if you meet the criteria for waiving coverage, your employer must provide you with a waiver form, which is also available on the Paid Family Leave website. If you waive coverage, you will not make contributions and you will not be eligible for paid family leave benefits. Employers should also keep a copy of your waiver on file. If your schedule changes so that you no longer qualify for a waiver, your waiver will be automatically revoked within 8 weeks of the schedule change. You can also voluntarily revoke a waiver at any time. If your waiver is revoked, your employer will begin taking paid family leave contributions and collect any retroactive amounts due. Now we're going to cover how to request paid family leave for military-related leave, as well as how disputes and discrimination issues will be handled. As previously mentioned, paid family leave is now fully phased in, and if you're an eligible employee, the maximum benefit is available to you once every 52 weeks. So when you're ready to request leave for military deployment, there are 3 basic steps. Step 1 is to notify the employer at least 30 days before the start of your leave if it's foreseeable or as soon as possible. Step 2 is to complete the request forms. And step 3 is to send all the required forms to the insurance carrier. The insurance carrier must pay or deny your request within 18 calendar days of receiving the completed request or the first day of leave, whichever is later. You must submit your completed request package to your employer's insurance carrier within 30 days after the start of your leave to avoid losing benefits. So now we'll take a look at each of these steps in a little more depth. Step 1, inform your employer. Let your employer know at least 30 days before your leave will start if it's foreseeable. So for example, you may be planning to take paid family leave for a military-related event or the deployment of your family member. Step 2 is to complete the required paid family leave request forms. For military leave, your request will contain 3 forms. The first one is the request for paid family leave, which is form PFL-1. This gives your insurance company information about you. The second form, the military qualifying event, form PFL-5, requires information about the military member on covered active duty or impending call to covered active duty status. If the request is to meet with a third party, you'll also have to fill out another section of Form PFL-5, which is the template for documentation for military qualifying event, Form PFL-5T, and this is to provide supporting documentation of that meeting. Family leave request forms from your employer's insurance carrier, or directly from paidfamilyleave.ny.gov/forms. So now let's look at the request for paid family leave, which is Form PFL-1. Every employee who is requesting paid family leave starts with this form. It asks for basic information about you and the leave you want to take, and has a section for your employer to complete as well. You'll submit this form to your employer's insurance carrier along with other completed forms for the type of leave you are taking. Form PFL-1 has two parts. You are responsible for filling out Part A, and your employer is responsible for filling out Part B. The first section of Part A covers your personal information, including your address, your social security number, or your tax identification number, as well as your date of birth. You must also state why you are requesting to take the leave and how it pertains to you. Next, you're going to indicate if you expect your leave to be a continuous period or intermittent. You may not know all of the dates for certain, so you can indicate that they are estimated and update your insurer if a change is needed. Finally, you must provide information about your employment, including your employer's location and phone number, your date of hire, your average gross weekly wage, whether or not you have more than one employer, if you are taking paid family leave from another employer, and if you are currently receiving workers' compensation lost wage benefits. You then need to sign and date Part A of the form and give it to your employer, who will then complete Part B of the form. Before giving this form to your employer, make sure to make a copy of Form PFL-1. Your employer then has 3 business days to fill out Part B of Form PFL-1 and return it to you. If your employer does not return the form, you can still proceed with your paid family leave request. Next, you must complete the military qualifying event, which is Form PFL-5. You will need to provide information about the military member on covered active duty or impending call to covered active duty status, including the military member's name, their date of birth, their gender, their mailing address, the relationship to you, the employee, the time frame of active duty, and the qualifying reason you are requesting paid family leave. In addition, you must also select which supporting document you will be attaching as proof that the military member is on covered active duty or an impending call or order to covered active duty status. Supporting documentation can be one of the following: a U.S. Department of Labor military leave certification, also called the Federal Military Leave Form, a copy of their military duty papers, or other documentation supporting the reason for the leave. For example, a copy of a meeting notice or other meeting documentation, ceremony details, or rest and recuperation orders. You will need to include your name and date of birth on the top of the second page of the form and attest to whether or not you will be including supporting documentation with the form. Finally, you must sign and date the form. The final part of the form is the template for documentation for military qualifying event, or Form PFL-5T. And this is used to provide supporting documentation when you are using paid family leave to meet with a third party. For example, a meeting with a daycare facility or a financial counselor. You can make copies of this form and use one for each meeting for which you are requesting paid family leave. To complete this form, you must first provide your name, date of birth, social security or tax identification number, and your mailing address. Next, you must submit the following information for each required meeting or event: the name of the individual you will be meeting with, their title, the organization, phone and fax numbers, email address, and their mailing address. In addition, you must also describe the nature of the meeting and include the dates if you know them. Step 3 is to send all the forms to your employer's insurance carrier. Before submitting your forms, make sure to make a copy of PFL-1 and PFL-5 for your records. You will submit forms PFL-1, Form PFL-5, and Form PFL-5T to your employer's paid family leave insurance carrier or directly to your employer if they are self-insured. This address can be found in Part B, Question 13 of Form PFL-1. This is the section your employer completed. If the carrier's address is not on the form, ask your employer or contact the Paid Family Leave Helpline at 844-337-6303 for assistance. The insurance carrier must pay or deny within 18 calendar days of receiving your completed request or the first day of leave, whichever is later. If for some reason your paid family leave request is denied, or you have another claim-related dispute, such as the amount of benefits or timeliness of a carrier's decision, you may request to have the denial reviewed by a neutral arbitrator. Your insurance carrier or employer, if they're self-insured, will notify you of the reason for denial and provide you with information about requesting arbitration. Arbitration for paid family leave is handled by NAM, National Arbitration and Mediation. More information on arbitration is available at NAM's website, which you can see here on your screen. As mentioned earlier, your employer may not discriminate against you for requesting or taking paid family leave, and you are guaranteed job protection with the same or comparable job upon return from paid family leave. If your employer does not return you to your same or comparable job, terminates you, reduces your pay and or your benefits, or disciplines you in any way as a result of you requesting or taking paid family leave, you can file a discrimination claim with the Workers' Compensation Board. An administrative law judge may order an employer to reinstate the employee, pay any lost wages, pay attorney's fees, and pay up to $500 in penalties. The process and forms are available at paidfamilyleave.ny.gov, or you can call the Paid Family Leave Helpline for assistance. Again, that number is 844-337-6303. There are a few frequently asked questions about paid family leave and other leave policies that may be helpful for you to know, so let's go over those. The first, how are paid family leave and FMLA similar? There are several similarities between New York's paid family leave and the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act. Both provide leave for bonding with a child, caring for a family member with a serious health condition, and assisting when a family member is deployed on active military service abroad. You are also guaranteed that you will return to the same or a comparable position and that your health insurance will continue on the same terms as if you had continued to work. If you contribute to the cost of your health insurance, you must continue to pay your portion of the premium cost while you're on leave. However, there are a number of key differences, most important being PFL is paid, FMLA is not paid. Also, almost all private employers will carry PFL insurance. FMLA does not include insurance, and it has a 50-employee threshold for eligibility. The length of time you must work is also different. In PFL, if you regularly work 20 or more hours per week, you must be in employment for 26 consecutive weeks for that employer. And if you regularly work fewer than 20 hours per week, you must work for 175 days for the same employer, which do not need to be consecutive. For FMLA, you must have worked a full year and 1,250 hours in the last 52 weeks to qualify. The biggest distinction may be that under New York's paid family leave, you are taking leave to care for someone else, not for your own health condition. FMLA allows you to take leave for your own health condition. PFL is only taken in full-day increments, whereas FMLA can be taken hourly. Also, under PFL, you do not need to use other paid time off first. What is needed to demonstrate a domestic partnership? You do not need to have a registered domestic partnership to take paid family leave to care for a domestic partner. The definition in the law is broad, and there are a number of factors that are looked at when determining whether a domestic partnership exists. These include, but are not limited to, common ownership of property, children in common, signs of intent to marry, shared budgeting, and the length of the personal relationship. For specific questions about what documentation you may need to submit to demonstrate a domestic partnership, you should reach out to your employer's paid family leave insurance carrier. Can military leave be used to take time off to care for a service member's child? Military leave covers making arrangements for the military member's child as well as urgent, non-routine child care by the family member. This includes circumstances when the covered active service or call to covered active service status of the military member necessitates a change that may result in arranging for alternative child care. Providing child care for a child on an urgent, immediate need basis, enrolling in or transferring to a new school or a daycare facility, or attending meetings with the staff at a school or a daycare facility. Ongoing routine child care needs would not be covered. So, for example, if an employee cannot take paid family leave, an employee cannot take paid family leave to watch a service member's child during summer vacation, but the employee could take paid family leave to arrange for such child care. Can you take paid family leave to care for ill or injured service members or veterans? Yes, you can request paid family leave to care for ill or injured service members or veterans in their families with a serious health condition. Qualifying members include your spouse, your domestic partner, your child, your stepchild, your parent, parent-in-law, step-parent, grandparent, or grandchild. You'll notice that siblings are not listed here currently, but we are happy to announce that effective January 2023, siblings will be included in the family members which are eligible to receive this type of family care under PFL. In order to take this type of leave, your family member must have a serious health condition. A serious health condition is defined as an illness, injury, or a condition that requires either inpatient care in a hospital, hospice, or residential health facility, or continuing treatment or supervision by a healthcare provider. A COVID-19 diagnosis may qualify as a serious health condition. We will get into that in a little bit. How does paid family leave differ from benefits administered by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs? The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs benefit is a federal program and does not impact or affect eligibility for paid family leave. Paid family leave for the care of an ill or an injured family member who happens to be a veteran is different from VA benefits in these ways. The benefit is for the employee as the caregiver helping their ill or injured family member. The illness or injury does not have to be service-connected. The nature of the veteran's military discharge does not matter, and the illness or injury does not need a final diagnosis from the VA doctor or a VA rating to qualify. How do you plan leave when you don't know the exact dates? If you don't know the exact dates for when you'll need to take leave, inform your employer as soon as you do know or when you'll be out. Complete and submit the forms or supporting documentation as soon as possible following the initial leave event. You have 30 days from the first day of leave to submit your completed request without losing benefits. If the leave is taken intermittently, employers can require as much notice as practicable before each day of intermittent leave. Form PFL-1 also allows you to list estimated dates. Estimated dates will alert the insurance carrier so it can inform you of any policies it has in place to notify the carrier when the exact dates are known. Just remember that PFL must be taken in full day increments. You have to submit the entire form package each time you need leave. Submitting an entire form package each time you need leave will depend on each insurance carrier's processes and whether or not the certification covers the entire period. Section 2041 of the Workers' Compensation Law states that if the events are separated by more than 3 months, they are different qualifying events and a new form package would likely be required. As we mentioned earlier, there are 2 additional uses of paid family leave that took effect under emergency legislation from former Governor Cuomo, signed in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The legislation allows for a combination of New York paid family leave and disability benefits if you are under an order of mandatory or precautionary quarantine or isolation due to COVID-19. This is the only time you may receive paid family leave and disability benefits at the same time. It also gives you access to paid family leave if your minor dependent child is under an order of mandatory or precautionary quarantine or isolation due to COVID-19. For most employees who work for an employer with 10 or fewer employees and a business net annual income of less than $1 million can use a combination of paid family leave and disability benefits. After receiving your full PFL benefit, up to $840.70 weekly, you will receive disability benefits to match your full wages up to a maximum weekly disability benefit of $2,043.92 for a total of $2,884.62 per week. There's no waiting period for this benefit, and you will have job protection for the duration of the quarantine. For most employees who work for an employer with 11 to 99 employees and smaller employers with 1 to 10 employees with a business net annual income greater than $1 million, your employer is required to provide at least 5 days of COVID-19 paid sick leave. Eligible employees can then use paid family leave. After receiving your full paid family leave benefit, up to $840.70 weekly, you will receive disability benefits to match your full wages up to a maximum weekly disability benefit of $2,043.92 for a total of $2,884.62 per week. Again, there's no waiting period for either benefit, and you will have job protection for the duration of the quarantine. For most employees who work for an employer with 100 or more employees, as well as all public employees, your employer is required to provide at least 14 days of COVID-19 paid sick leave for COVID-19 related quarantine, which should cover the period of a mandatory or precautionary order of quarantine or isolation, and again, you will have job protection during the duration of the quarantine. If you request leave for your minor dependent child's quarantine or isolation, you may be eligible to receive 67% of your pay, up to a maximum weekly benefit of $840.70. More detailed information about taking paid family leave for your quarantine or your child's can be found at paidfamilyleave.ny.gov/COVID-19. There, you'll also find information about New York State's COVID-19 paid sick leave requirements, FAQs, application forms, and more. So now as you think about how paid family leave may be able to help you and your family, there are also resources to assist you. Complete details on paid family leave are available at paidfamilyleave.ny.gov, along with other resources, including paid family leave request forms and fact sheets, weekly deduction and benefit calculators, and information about COVID-19 quarantine leave benefits. You can also contact the Paid Family Leave Helpline. Again, that number, 844-337-6303. If you're not already subscribed for email updates on paid family leave, including information on upcoming webinars, you can subscribe by clicking Get Updates on the bottom of the paidfamilyleave.ny.gov homepage. Thank you again for the opportunity to discuss New York's landmark paid family leave with you. We will now use the remaining time to take any of your questions. Please keep in mind that the board is unable to provide legal advice, which includes guidance about what you should do in specific situations. If you do have specific questions or concerns about a request for paid family leave, you should contact your disability and paid family leave insurance carrier, as they are the entity that makes the decision to pay or deny the benefits. I also want to let you know that we will be providing a recorded version of this webinar as well as a copy of these slides. As I mentioned, make sure you're signed up for email updates so you know when those are available. There may be some brief periods of silence as Quinn and I review your questions. That period of silence will begin now, and Quinn will be back with you shortly to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, I do see one question in the Q&A box, and that is, if less than 30 days has been given, is it up to the employer whether to approve the paid family leave or not? So if an employee has a foreseeable event and they do give less than 30 days advance notice, the employer still isn't the one who's going to approve or deny the claim. It's going to be the insurance carrier, but the employer can notify the insurance carrier that the employee failed to give 30 days advance notice of a foreseeable qualifying event. Oh, thank you. And I see that there was a clarification that they're self-insured. So in that case, because it's an approved self-insured employer, it is technically the employer who's making the determination. So they can take into consideration whether the employee provided appropriate notice or not when making a decision. Okay, the next question is about whether the military family member has to be deployed abroad or if they can be deployed somewhere else in the United States. It does have to be that they're deployed abroad. It cannot be somewhere else within the United States. I see another question in the Q&A about whether or not paid family leave can be used to attend the graduation ceremony from basic training. I'm not sure off the top of my head if that is one of the qualifying events. They are the same as those for the federal FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act. There are a lot of leave reasons that include things like attending ceremonies, so it is possible that that may be included. You can go, FMLA has a lot of resources outlining the different things, and then also on our website, we do list out some of the qualifying events for military leave. And if you ever have questions too, you can always contact your employer's paid family leave insurance carrier.
Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to Quinn for taking the time to answer the questions that we did receive. I do want to let you know that we will have some other upcoming webinars for how to use PFL. Please go to our website to see when those webinars are. Registration is not required, and it is free. So need a refresher at any point, or if any of your colleagues would like to join that couldn't join today, there will be some other opportunities. As we had mentioned, you can also sign up to receive paid family leave news, including information on future webinars, straight to your inbox. To sign up, visit the Paid Family Leave website, scroll down to the bottom of the homepage and select Get Updates. And again, we will be letting you know via email when the slide deck and the recorded version are available. We'll also distribute information via social media, so be sure to follow the Workers' Compensation Board on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you go to our YouTube page, you will also see previously recorded paid family leave webinars, so you can watch those if you need any assistance. And again, thank you for joining us today, and please enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you.